Welcome back to this Java series. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about control structures. Control structure itself is a very important concept in programming. And the reason is because most of our computer programs, or should I say all of our computer programs, are built upon these structures. There are three major control structures. We have sequence, we have selection, and we have iteration. Now, you need to understand that when you write your computer program, for instance, it starts running from topward towards bottom, line by line, one after the other, according to the ways you've written it. You need to also know that your computer programs that you are writing must make decisions based on the input you are giving it, based on your design, based on what you want. You need to be able to make decisions. You need to also know that your computer programs, maybe you want to do some things repetitively now. You need to understand a way of writing those programs to do those things. Now, I have an hardware in my front, and I want to quickly use it to explain that control structure is not language based, it is general. That if you have an understanding of control structure now, you can easily understand different language. Once you see those things in another language, you will know, okay, you will know that, oh, this is an example, this is sequence, this is selection, and this is iteration. Now, this hardware itself, there's a program running inside this hardware, and the program is used to detect when an obstacle is at the front of this sensor right here. Now, so if I should move this obstacle close to the sensor, you can see the alarm is what? The alarm is shouting like that. So if I should remove it, the alarm goes off. If I should bring it close, the alarm comes on. So that is just showing that you need a way of what? Giving your computer instruction. You need a way of giving your computer conditions. Now, looking at this program, look at this program in this place. This is a program that runs on the hardware. And this program itself is just telling the hardware to detect when an obstacle is at the front, like this, and also to detect when it is not there. So you can see for this episode, I'm going to be talking about selection word statement. That's selection. Under the control structures, we have selection statements. Now we have sequence, selection, and iteration. So for this episode, I'm only going to be talking about sequence and selection statements. And sequence itself is just a way of your program running from top toward bottom. Selection itself is a way of determining, making decisions. Now we need to make decisions based on what inputs. So look at this program. It says program says that if sensor detects obstacle, now according to the sensor reading that we are getting, if sensor should detect obstacle, switch on the buzzer just like this. Now it now says that else if the sensor does not detect any obstacle, what? Switch off what? The buzzer just like this. Switch off the buzzer like that. So now the first selection statement I'll be talking about is called single selection statement. And single selection statement is just a statement that is used to determine when something is true. Now, let me remove the else part in this place. So this is a single selection statement. Now, it says if sensor detects obstacle, switch on the buzzer. I'm going to load I'm going to compile this particular code right now. I'm going to compile it and send it into the hardware so that we'll determine the single selection statement, saying that if sensor detects obstacle, switch on the buzzer. So I'm currently compiling the code right now. Compilation successful. So I want to load it inside the hardware. Currently loading it inside the hardware. So we're uploading the code inside the hardware. We want to determine single selection statement using this hardware bit. Now, look at it. It said if sensor detects obstacle. Now, this is the obstacle right now. I'm going to be moving this obstacle close to the sensor. It said if sensor detects obstacle, switch on the buzzer. you understand? So let's try it. You can see, and I removed, when I removed the obstacle now, the buzzer is still what, making noise, still it's still shouting like that. So what will happen is that this is a single selection statement, and this single selection statement is just giving it that if this is true, do this. So, and that thing that immediately switch on the buzzer now, is just on. The buzzer is just on for life, like that. As long as there's power, it will continue making that sound. Now, when it comes to double selection statement, double selection statement is just a way of determining. It's like two branch now, whereby you said if this is this, do this, else if that thing is not that thing, do this thing. So it's just a way of making decision that if the sensor detects obstacle now, switch on the buzzer, else if the sensor does not detect obstacle, because we need a way of making this buzzer to go off. Now if the sensor does not detect obstacle, switch off the buzzer. So that's right, else switch off the buzzer, switch off the buzzer. So we are calling that function inside of it, else switch off what, the buzzer. I'm going to compile it and send it back into the hardware. That is called double selection statement. That we are making a decision. When the decision is true, we are switching on the buzzer, and if the decision is false, we will switch off the buzzer. So that's double selection statement, like that. The same thing is applicable in Java. It's not a language thing, it's general, whereby for every language you go into, definitely that language, there is sequence, there's selection, and there's iteration. Iteration is just a way of doing things repetitively. Now I want to load the code back into the hardware. Now I've uploaded the compiled instructions into the hardware. So if I should move this obstacle close to the sensor now, you can see the sensor is the alarm is on. If I should move it away from it, the alarm is what, off. So looking at it is just a way of expressing double selection statement, because selection statement itself, we have in selection statement, we have single selection, we have double selection, and we have multi-selection statements. So now, he said for the double selection, I'll be able to explain the single selection where we don't need else. He said if this, for the single one, is just doing if this is true, do this. That's all. For the double selection, saying if this is true, do this. If this thing is not true, else do what, this. So it's just a way of making decisions in our programs. So on the desktop, we have a folder named Anybody Can Code. And inside this folder, I want us to create a file, and the file, let's name this particular file control structure.java. Remember that .java should be the extension, because it's a Java program we're writing. So now we're going to open this with Notepad, because Notepad is our code editor for this series for now. So open it. Public class, we're creating a class, public class control structure. Remember I said the name of your class should be the same name you'll be giving your file. Control structure like this: public static void main, The main itself is just the entry point to your program, where we'll be running our program. So for a quick start, let's confirm if what we are doing is working. System.out.println. So I just want to print on the terminal, welcome to Anybody Can Code channel. Welcome to Anybody Can Code channel. So save it. We're going to run it on the terminal. Open your terminal and cd into Anybody Can Code. It's just like when you open your terminal, you see the into anybody can code like this. Then we are going to use our Java keyword, javac, to compile the program. Java control structures.java. We'll know if there's any error. So that's compiled. Then you are going to run it using the Java keyword there. So it said, welcome to anybody can code channel. Now, let's return back to our program. Now, control structures in Java. Control structures, since we are dealing with, I want to just talk about single selection statements now. Since we are dealing with the selection statement. Now, for single selection statements, because it's not really a language thing, but every programming language out there have their own way, their syntax, their own way of writing their own control structure. Because everything is the same thing is happening under the hood. So let me declare a variable, or let me create a variable and assign a value to it. So int number equal to 20, for instance, number equal to 20. So let's write a quick one. It said if number, this is a condition, if number is greater than 20, we want to print something on the terminal. Now, printing something on the terminal for this Java program is just like the hardware bit I showed you, where we are using the buzzer. The buzzer itself is like the output device that is helping us to be able to visualize what is happening, whereby if I should move the obstacle towards the sensor, the buzzer is going to come on. So for this particular program, we're using the terminal. The terminal is where we visualize what is happening. Will determine if our condition is what's true or our condition is false. So I think that if number is greater than 20, print on the terminal. So print number is greater than 20. Just look at the terminal as the output, just like the buzzer. So now print number is greater than 20. So, and we assign the value to number as 20. So if I should run this program now, let's compile it, compile again. So if I should run the program, it said, welcome to anybody can code channel, but it did not print anything in this place. It means that the number is not greater than 20. Number is just, so the number is assigned 20, but it's not greater. So let me add 20. Let me change the value of number to 21. Let me change the value of number to 21 and go back to your terminal as your command prompt, compile the program again and run it. So it printed number is greater than what? 20. Now, this is just a single selection statement as you're looking at it, saying that if this is true, do this. It's just like our program in this place, our program for the hardware that says, if the sensor detects obstacle, do this, switch on the buzzer. Now, if I remove this else statement in this place, that's the same thing as single selection statement written on the Java program here. Now, it said that if number is 20, now let me simulate the same thing that is happening to that hardware. So let's change number. Let's change number to, let me say, if sensor, let's change the variable, that name, if sensor is equal to 1, let's say 1. So if sensor is equal to 1, so if sensor, instead of greater, now let's say equals to. So in Java, we are using the double equal to compare things like that. So if sensor is equal to 1, print, so print obstacle detected. Now you can see, so it said int sensor equal to 1. So it is a variable that is saying that when the sensor is on. So if sensor is on, print obstacle detected. So I'm just trying to compare it with this program, the program that is written in C. Now, program is written in C for the hardware, and this particular program is Java. It's just trying to say that control structures is not language based. like that. They might probably have different ways they are writing it, or different ways they are writing their syntax and things like that. But it's still the same thing that is happening. Are we trying to run the program sequentially? Are we trying to run the program selectively? That's conditionally. That's selection statement. Are we trying to run the program repetitively? That's the aspect of it. So if I should compile this program now, let me compile. If I should recompile. So you're saying that number, okay, I think I've not saved it. That's why it's still printing number, the number program. Let me go back to the terminal. Let's recompile. So you say obstacle what detected. It's just like saying the way it works on the hardware, that the buzzer will start alarming us that, oh, there's something that is at the front of the sensor. The same thing is happening. Remember in the hardware bits, I wrote else. Now let's go to the double selection statement. Double selection statement. It said, now you can see that it's just single thing, one thing that is just happening. We're just printing obstacle detected. And remember on the hardware bit, when we wrote the single selection statement, that part was just, the alarm was just on continuously, because we wrote what the single selection statement. For the double selection statement now, let me write else. It's just like saying that if that first condition, if that condition is not true, what do we want to do? Let's print system dot out dot print line. It's saying obstacle. Okay, let me just write no obstacle. Yes, let me just write no obstacle like that, and save it. Then I want to run it. So let's run this program and see what happens. Compile the program. Then you can see it said, okay, obstacle detected. I think I did not save it properly. Let me do that again. Let me do that again. Compile it. Obstacle detected. Okay. Okay. Oh, I've not changed the sensor value here. So let's change the sensor value to 0. Now, when the sensor value is not reading anything, now maybe the sensor value is not equal to 1. So it's printing obstacle detected because the sensor value is still what? 1, like that. What if the sensor value is not 1? Just like when there's no obstacle at the front of the sensor, when we're writing the hardware bit in this place. Now, let's go back to let's compile it and see what happens for double selection statement. So compile and print. It said no obstacle. So the same thing was happening on our hardware, and this is Java. It's just a way I'm just trying to explain the difference between single selection and what double selection statements. Now we also have multi-selection, and I'm going to be talking about multi-selection in our next class. From multi-selection statement, we'll now move to iteration. Multi-selection itself is just a way of, it's just what we call the switch statement, like this switch statement, where we can write different things like that. So I'm going to talk about it in the next class. So the difference between, the difference between when we're writing just this, when we're writing single selection, whereby if this is happening for single selection, it's just going to print. If this condition is true, do this. If the condition is not true, continuously do this. So it's doing this continuously like that. So it's printing no obstacle. The same thing was happening to our hardware like this. And the reason why the hardware that other part was the hardware buzzer was off continuously was because we're even inside we're inside a loop iteration like that. So I'm still going to explain that part to us. So for in the next class and all. Thank you everybody. Thank you. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'm going to be dropping more episodes. More episodes will be coming out on different things. For now, in the next class, we are going to talk about multi-selection statements. I'm still going to do a revision of the single selection and double selection statements, while we'll now move into iteration. From there, we'll now start writing our programs and learning other software engineering principles that are very important for this channel. Thank you.